if you would kindly leave any comments, questions, if you have a long written post on Blackboard, if you could get a microphone out and speak your thoughts, that'd be great to share the ideas and hear each individual's voice on the idea of the flipped classroom model. If you also can copy and paste what you've written into VoiceThread. We'd really like to expand our horizons, especially if we're going to be in this EdTech program together and we want to start learning these tools. So we're asking you to shift away from Blackboard for this week at least, and use VoiceThread. Thank you very much.
Hello. First of all, I would like to thank Matt and James for this wonderful presentation on the flipped classroom model. I must admit that I really didn't know much about it, but once I read your presentation and saw the various um, software packages, you really shed a lot of light on what it's all about. And I could really see where children will actually become engaged in learning using this concept, using the various technologies, camera, microphone, and, and collaborate using these different tools, especially with the program Khan Academy, where they can actually work on high order skills in math. And I mean, it's just really excellent tool here. And I'm telling you, I could see a big difference in the transformation from the first slide where you had the diagram of the traditional classroom where the teacher was there before the students and the students were sitting straight rows and just listen to a lecture all day versus the flipped classroom model where the children are encouraged to work with a partner, work in small learning centers, and they engage in learning and they actually collaborate with one another to come up with all different strategies, solving problems. So I just want to say, I really enjoyed the presentation and I have a question that I asked later on in one of the slides, and I look forward to your response. Thank you.
October, thank you for your wise feedback. We really appreciate you listening to the whole presentation, and we're glad you found it helpful. One of the great things about a flipped classroom is that it can be done in a lot of different ways, a lot of different means to accomplish the task, and really moving the teacher to this guide on the side instead of, again, as Matt had earlier said, the teacher just directing knowledge from the front. So thanks again. We appreciate your comments.
Why flip? To understand the flipped classroom model, it's good to know the history of the flipped classroom. Two science teachers met in 2004 in Denver, Colorado, Aaron Sams and Jonathan Bergman. They noticed a need because many students were falling behind due to all the extracurricular activities that they were involved in. 2007, Web 2.0 tools were also starting to come of age and become much more common on the internet. Web 2.0 refers to the read-write web, which focuses on user-generated content. An example is YouTube, which relies on its users to create the videos it streams. At this time, Sams learned that he could record PowerPoint lessons using screencasting software. They refer to this model as educational vodcasting. This enabled Sams and Bergman to post their lessons online. Their website, Educational Vodcasting, eventually became the Flipped Classroom Network, which is what it is known as today. Sams and Bergman originally considered educational vodcasting another type of blended learning experience, where you could have some distance learning, some face-to-face learning. But the videos became popular on the web, and that led Daniel Pink, an educational technologist in England, to write an article for The Telegraph, which is a British newspaper. In the article, Pink nicknamed the model the fish flip. Carl Fish was a colleague in Colorado who also used Sams and Bergman's model. Pink succinctly described the model as, quote, lectures at night, homework during the day. Call it the fish flip. Shortly thereafter, in the spring of 2011, Salman Khan of the Khan Academy, who also produces instructional educational videos, gave a TED Talk in which he used the phrase, quote, flipping the class. According to an article from Aaron Sams titled Setting the Flip Straight, it was after Khan's talk that both teachers, Sams and Bergman, adopted the name the Flipped Classroom. In 2012, Sams and Bergman published a book titled Flip Your Classroom with ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education. The Flipped Classroom and the Flipped Classroom Network go hand in hand with flipped learning.
One of the things I like about this model is it allows the students to do, lower level work at home, things that are lower on Bloom's taxonomy, things like learning definitions, becoming familiar with the basics of concepts, thinking about them first at home, seeing easy examples of problems solved at home, makes life a little bit easier in the classroom. For me as a physics teacher and as an engineering teacher, one of the goals that I have is to try to develop richer conversations in class and have richer discussions with the kids. And one of the ways to do that is to sort of offload this lower level stuff to the internet so that students can basically use this flipped classroom model to get themselves prepared in a way other than reading a book. The flipped classroom gives them the ability to have something similar to a lecture at home, or something similar to a lesson where they get to hear my voice, they get to see my expressions, they get to see my handwriting, and then use what they've learned from that their next day in class. So I really think that this is a really neat thing. Of course, one caveat is you do have to have students motivated enough to do this at home.
I'm looking at the diagram here of the traditional classroom and the flipped classroom, and I must say that I was able to, I'm able to say that I've actually experienced both in my lifetime. The traditional classroom, where we sat in straight rows and the teacher would just lecture all day, and a lot of times I found myself daydreaming just out of boredom because the teacher would just talk, 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 talk. And you always had the pets that would raise their hands and that type of thing. But with the technologies today and the trends of education, where you have a lot of cooperative learning and centers, it really makes learning more interesting and interactive, where children can actually learn from one another and the teacher walk around and facilitate. And I've noticed with the flipped classroom, that's what it also encouraged, where the children work together in pairs and groups, and they share one another and they use technology, which is awesome.
I really like this model, and I like the concept of lecture at night and homework during the day. This is something that we have been trying out here at the Stevens Library where I work. This semester we're doing a pilot to flip the classroom for library instruction for a freshman level writing and communications course. And we're very much involved and collaborating with the professors who teach this course to the freshmen. And so far, flipping the classroom has been very successful. We've been very fortunate to have an intern from Pratt Institute, the library school there, and she has a great background in creating videos, instructional videos, and so she made some really nice videos that are very watchable. They're only a minute and a half each, and the students are asked to, by their professors, they are asked to watch these videos prior to coming to class with the librarians, and so far that has been very successful. And we're tracking it, and we're getting feedback, and we're going to have some assessment to see how that works. And we intend to continue it next semester, in the spring semester, after tweaking it as needed. We do find that for most of the classes, it actually helps to show the videos again in the class time that we have together, but it's good that we've allotted time for that as well. Also, it gives us a chance to really, like Mike was saying in his comment, to kind of offload some of the things that are more basic for the video prior to class, and then we can use our class time to do something more meaningful in terms of hands-on collaborative activity to really get to know high-quality research resources, library databases, and also speak about ways to evaluate information thoughtfully, and also to make sure that students know how to access the most high quality information and how to trust sources and that sort of thing. So we're really finding the flipped classroom to be tremendously useful, and I really like this presentation because it really talks about the benefits of doing this. And I've already gone through the slides, and I'll be making a couple of more comments, particularly about Shelly, Terrell, and some of the things that she said were really very useful. So great job, guys. This is a really nice presentation.
I must agree with Michael. I am really concerned with this type of model about student motivation to kind of, help them along to kind of make decisions about their content, about how they're going to pursue their content. But on a different level, I think that's really important because this allows for students at a very young age to take a decision-making approach to their education, which is something often that what I'm seeing in higher education is if you've been taught in a lecture setting, which reinforces passive learning, you kind of just pick up what you can. But with this type of format, the student is forced to be active, which is very important. So when they do move on to college, or when they do move on to a job, they're decision makers as opposed to passive receptors of information, which is important because in 20 years or so, the kind of simple jobs, I assume, will be taken over by machines or computers or what have you. So the fact that you're kind of forcing the student to think about decisions and the tasks at hand and how to manipulate the tasks at hand to achieve learning is very important.
Many teachers today already focus on the student-centered classroom model. In other words, the stage on the stage becomes the guide on the side. The flip model is different in that it depends on educational technology tools. The difference in what makes a flipped classroom also is the homework piece. It's not just watching videos at home. That is just half of the model. Completing the flip is homework done in class. Like DVR is to television viewing, the flipped classroom, quoting Sams and Bergman, time shifts the learning process. Sams and Bergman had more time to circulate around their class to give more individualized attention to student needs, and they reflected in their book, Flip Your Classroom, that in fact, anecdotally, student engagement increased. Flipped classroom learning became a buzzword in 2011, and that led to a backlash of sorts. Flip co-creator Aaron Sams contends that the Flip model is still evolving. In a 2011 post on the Daily Riff, a blog, he said, quote, "Using screencasting technology is not a methodology because it would be unwise to use this tool when it is not appropriate to do so. It is a tool in a toolbox of educators that prevents a teacher from wasting class time lecturing, but it allows the teacher to maintain the use of appropriate direct instruction and spends class time meeting the individual needs of students." The flipped classroom model, as it was originally created, uses videos to deliver instruction. This has been expanded, and we will cover this in later slides. Nonetheless, the model is so tied to technology, the digital divide of haves and have-nots becomes pronounced. A student who is unable to watch a video lecture the night before class begins behind his or her peers. This model may be more effective in some classes and some settings than in others. For instance, teaching a new math concept may work well in video, and then practicing the problems in class with teacher-aided support fits the model well. Flipping the class may not work as well in lower elementary grades, kindergarten or first grade, and the like. Finally, the attention this model gains seems to portray teaching as instructional and direct lecture driven, rather than constructive student-centered learning spaces. The latter has become more typical in past decades. For instance, cooperative learning is very common in schools today. ASCD journalist Gary Stager of the Stager Paper website debated with Aaron Sams about the model in 2012 on NPR, National Public Radio. Stager contended that the model reinforces the lecture homework dynamic. Also, recorded lectures, according to Stager, could devalue teaching because anyone could produce and share lectures online. The final point on why flip is data. The model is still fairly new, and there is very little long-term data to support it. Most of the data is anecdotal. Some of the anecdotal evidence from teachers back Sams and Bergman's claim that students become more independent. According to a white paper, the idea is to, quote, personalize learning and to, quote, maximize face time with students. Of course, the white paper was produced by the Flip Learning Network. It is important to acknowledge that. The white paper does acknowledge that qualitative and quantitative data is limited, and it rather cites related studies. For instance, in 1996, Paul Mazur, a Harvard researcher, developed a model called peer instruction. This paradigm is now common in massive open online courses, or MOOCs, where it is known as peeragogy, similar to pedagogy. Peeragogy is when peers teach one another. Aaron Sams and Jonathan Bergman, creators of the flipped classroom model, summarize the reason to flip as the following, quote, "Not about how to use videos in your lessons. It's about how to best use your in-class time with your students."
Just a couple of points again here that I have about this, because I've played with this a little bit in my classroom, not enough to really have too much say in it, but remember, these are videos, but they're not like DVDs. So one of the things I think to make them effective is they have to be short. I think like a 5-minute cutoff is basically the limit. Secondly, it's best if the students are doing something while watching these videos. It's a little bit harder for a teacher to put an embedded quiz into one of these videos. I think the Camtasia software has a tool that allows you to do that when you're doing screencasting. But for the most part, that's a difficult thing to do. If we could make a little 5-minute chunk of a lesson, do one of these flipped classroom videos, but have the students be able to do some pretty quick assessment at home for themselves just to see if they're learning. I think that helps make them a little bit more effective. And I also think, although I don't have it in front of me to cite it, that there is research that says if the students see handwriting like from a drawing tablet, that gives this that makes this experience a little bit more authentic and makes it easier for them to hold their attention. I think it's easier to hold your attention on somebody for 15 minutes in a classroom than it is for over 5 minutes on a video, even if it's the same content. So I think by having a writing tablet, by having some questions embedded in, it does make it a little bit easier. But I think that goes back to what Matt was just saying here, that when the tool's used appropriately, it's effective. This isn't the grand cure-all. Maybe it's a piece of yet a bigger puzzle about how to run a blended classroom both online and in person. But for the moment, it's just another tool that needs to be used appropriate. I agree with that statement completely.
My concern in this type of setting is that I guess the software and the hardware works, that the student is empowered to actually utilize this kind of hardware at home, and that there are no crashes, that their streaming server's fine, that if you're using an LMS to stream these movies, the LMS doesn't go down between certain hours. There are a lot of little logistical pieces, logistical situations that need to be addressed. And what this does is it kind of moves the role of the teacher outside of the traditional teaching environment and into that of almost an administrator of a website or administrator of a digital object, which in my experience, many faculty and many instructors, I guess many teachers, are not comfortable doing because they do not want to take responsibility for monitoring or for managing such almost high-level technology access or resource access. As for quizzes, where students check their understanding, extent of their learning, these are, I hope these are qualitative and not quantitative quizzes, because generally speaking, A, B, C, D, especially when I was a kid, who was a game. So to kind of manipulate this is a little bit difficult. All right.
Elena, to address your point, there are some concerns in regards to students having equity in technology at home, but this is, at least this program that we're using now, VoiceThread or YouTube program, is very, very small bandwidth. I would guess that most students probably have a phone or a mobile phone in a lot of different areas economically also, and maybe that guess or assumption is incorrect, but I don't think this is really an incredibly huge technological endeavor to make a flipped classroom. I think that's one of the reasons why people are doing it, is because it's becoming easier and easier for people to do it. And I think to your second point, as far as the teacher just being an administrator, I don't really think that catches the main idea of a flipped classroom. The idea of the flipped classroom is to provide material for students to learn at their own pace, and so that when students come back, whether students be college-age students or high school students or middle school students, that the teacher really helps to guide them through and through the process of actually learning or completing problems, especially in the case of math, as Mike alluded to earlier or later in one of his slides for physics. So there's really lots of opportunities for learning. It's really up to the mindset of people's minds to change, and I guess that's another issue too. But again, thanks for your feedback. One of the most important things before you start flipping a classroom is providing appropriate professional development and having the appropriate equipment to use. On the pictures that you see above, some of the things that have been used by Khan Academy include a simple Wacom tablet and a couple screens. You can see that VoiceThread, which I am using right now. I have a nice microphone, and also I'm using my mouse if I'd like to highlight certain sections on the slide. In addition, there are many screencasting apps you can use that both teachers that are either novices with technology and also students can easily create a flipped classroom product. So thank you for viewing the slide, and we'll continue with the next slide. I'd like to add, if you can see here, this microphone, if you place it a little bit above your nose, that was one trick that I learned as far as so you don't get the breath of your breathing into the microphone. And that's just one simple trick that can make for a better recording in a flipped classroom product.
I have a question. How would one know where to actually locate the particular flipped classrooms? Is there like a website for flipped classrooms only, or it depends on the various platforms that you use? For example, Khan Academy, would you go to Khan Academy website in order to locate these classrooms? That's basically my question. Where would one go to find these specific classrooms or subject area topics, things like that, lectures?
October, that's a good question. Where would you go to find some of these examples of a flipped classroom? And I think what you have to keep in mind is that some of these models could actually be used during class also. One of the websites that we refer to is EduCreations, educreations.com, where you can find some examples. Khan Academy, you could do in and outside of a class. That's one other website where you can find a lot of good materials. Another one was mathtrain.tv. We have the Flip Network. I believe the resource is on one of the last slides. And we do have a bunch of references there. If you do click on one of the last few slides, there's a link to all of our references, and you can see some more places to go. If anybody else has some great places, post them up here, and we'd be happy to have you share them. But great question. Thanks for asking.
I see that you did mention Camtasia and you did mention professional development, but I'm just wondering to what extent the professional development will go. Further, with screencasting applications, the free ones generally require maybe 15-minute gap or 15-minute development or recording piece, and Camtasia is relatively expensive considering the cost of using it per instructor. Also, the microphone's expensive. There's a lot of what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of expenses associated with integrating custom learning objects into the classroom.
Yelena, you bring up a good point that some of this software is expensive, especially if you're going to license it to all professors or teachers. I've used Camtasia for years now, and I've gotten definitely my money's worth out of it. They have an upgrade fee that's a lot cheaper. They also have volume licensing for teachers, so I definitely think it does is worth the price in the long run if you want to invest in this type of learning environment. You can also go the easier route, which is TechSmith, which is free. I'm sorry, Jing, which is free, made by TechSmith, and that will suffice. Most computer laptops have built-in microphones now, or you can buy a $20 Logitech microphone that will probably do the job. So it could be relatively inexpensive, or it could be a little bit more expensive, depending upon the quality of the work that you want. Yeah, there are a lot of very simple tools to use that can help you. Here's one that's called Jing. This is a free product where you can screencast. It's also done by Camtasia. One of my favorite programs to use is Camtasia. It's used by experts across the field. Sal Khan uses it for his flip programs and for his Khan Academy, and it's an excellent tool. You can see him using it here with a Wacom tablet. It runs about $100. It's a nice condenser mic, and if you want to find the exact specs, they're in the references. Here you can see a better close-up picture of the Wacom tablet. And it takes a little time to practice, but once you get used to it, it works a little bit easier. The other thing is having two screens. I actually have two screens in front of my computer right now, and it's a lot easier to go back and forth between what you want to say and between what is actually being seen on the screen. A nice mouse is also good to have, and tablets are another really good option through EduCreations, and you could use the Galaxy S Note, which has a great S Pen to add recordings and voice and notes. EduCations is a great tool to use. It's specifically made as an iPad app where teachers can go right to their iPad and actually create an EduCreation. And it could be, here's one shown as an example. There's stuff here about, I believe this is Lewis and Clark adventure, and there's the Pythagorean theorem. There are many different applications that you could actually use for EduCreations. According to an article by Q Yoon, the research into the tablet PC talks about the innovative uses of tablets and how they can affect educational change. And one thing that it has shown is that it can be used for many different types of educational tasks. One of them, as you can see here, is EduCreations. You can do a lot of different things with EduCreations as far as putting in an already made picture or a diagram that you like and have it pre-planned. An EduCreation from start to finish can take as little as 5 minutes to be posted for students to view.
Many interactive whiteboards, such as Smartboard, come with screencasting tools where you can record your lessons as you go. But I have found that the iPad apps are faster and easier to use, and also have web support, so they can go right up to EduCreations' website. Show Me is another app that you can upload right to their site. And both of these apps come with student accounts, so students can also create lessons to teach other students in the classroom.
Yes, I have a question. Once you create your lesson using EduCreation and upload it onto the site, is it available for the public to actually utilize your lessons, or And my next question is, do they have lessons that are also public, that are published by the public that one could be able to utilize for their classroom?
Now, what we've done is use two different computer applications to help create this project. The first was Google Presentations, where our group collaboratively wrote the presentation and made nice visual slides because our intent was to put it onto VoiceThread. We uploaded the slides using a PDF and PNG files, and then we then put it onto VoiceThread. We had to make a few changes and replace slides every once in a while. The one drawback to VoiceThread is you cannot you write over the text once you put it in if it's from a slide. So that is a drawback, but there are some nice pre-made video slides that you can get. You can also add video if you like. And VoiceThread is a nice tool for implementing a flipped classroom model. It's a relatively inexpensive if you get a class license. It's free also for individuals with a limited license. There are many resources to use and many apps to use to create a flipped classroom product. Some of the places that you can go and view ready-made creations are mathtrain.tv. This is a nice site where both teachers and students have created math-specific tutorials for you to view. YouTube also has an education-specific component that you can go ahead and get. Your school can also get an account that's, again, all education-specific, and your teachers can upload videos to that portal. SchoolTube is another one, Screencast.com. We showed you EduCreations and VoiceThread, and there are many others that are out there.
Hello, I'm looking at the page here, YouTube, SchoolTube, and others, which I believe are educational websites you can go to for resources. I noticed that there was a video that was supposed to play with this slide. It said wait momentarily. I didn't know if it was going to come on, but I figured I would test out the recording feature while I wait. Thank you. I just figured out myself. I see the little icon over here on the side. When I clicked on it, I could actually hear my recording, which is really cool and clear too.
Jim, Matt, I think you guys did a great job in this. Excellent use of VoiceThread to showcase a flipped classroom. One of the tools that I use and I'm familiar with is it's a learning management tool. It's a free one, either Schoolology or Edmodo. Use in conjunction with some of the videos that you use or create on Screencast or ones that you find on YouTube. It allows for students to watch the video and then also a place for you for them to comment and continue a discussion. It's an excellent addition to a teacher's tool in creating the flipped classroom. But great job, guys.
Joe, thanks for the feedback. Schoology and Edmodo are also great tools, and I think back with Michael's slide, a few comments a few slides ago, this could also be a great way to actually tie an assessment into the flipped classroom, to tie an assessment into a short video, having some type of central location to put some of these videos on there, and then having, again, another tool to kind of meld everything together. But thank you again for your feedback. We appreciate it. October, thanks for the posts here. And YouTube education site is actually one of a new endeavor from YouTube and Google, actually, who owns YouTube. And they're trying to put a portal just in place for educational videos, and schools can actually sign up for this. And this would also be a great repository of videos to place for flipped classroom setting and environment.
For my 2 cents, I would like to add Merlot to your resources. Merlot is a huge repository of learning objects, and I think it would be very beneficial for anybody who does use a flipped classroom to contact that resource, because it does take the objects and grade them K through 12, higher ed, etc. It does filter them by subjects and by activity types. So Merlot, M-E-R-L-O-T.
A few years ago, nobody ever heard of Khan Academy, and now it was recently featured in a segment on 60 Minutes. According to Bill Gates, Sal Khan is his favorite teacher. He helped Bill Gates' son get through some difficult math classes in high school. As you can see here on this slide right here on the picture to the left, we have a student age of 10 who's completed over 642 tutorials learning about trigonometry problems through Khan Academy. And this is something which helps differentiate education. It helps students that are intrinsically motivated to continue to learn. In addition to that, Khan Academy has also evened the playing field, according to many experts, including Carpenter, who talks about how Thompson, who talks about how Khan Academy is changing the rules for education by providing economic opportunities and educational opportunities for those in poor countries. You can see here on the right is a picture in a school in India where they are learning tutorial videos through Khan Academy. There's a teacher circulating around in the room and helping them when they need help. A critic of detractors of Khan Academy would say that their lessons are just like drill and practice, and it doesn't offer for many of the engaging and creative opportunities that teachers provide in classrooms.
It is important to note that the Khan Academy is only one half of the flip. If a student is assigned to watch a Khan Academy video, that is just one half. It is important to complement that with actual assignments and problems in class. That way, best use of face-to-face time can be made. On a personal note, when I was preparing for the GREs, I used the Khan Academy to brush up on my skills on some mathematical concepts that I was, let's say, a little rusty on. I did personally find that Sal Khan's voice as well as his anecdotes helped me remember certain concepts. So that is an important skill to remember. It's not that you could just have a computer reading you problems or just anybody. I think it's an important skill to have as a teacher if you're planning on doing a flip model to Understand that your voice needs inflection, and it should also have some sort of personal note, not just reading through material. Jennifer, you do bring up a great point. I don't think that elementary school and younger grades would be an appropriate way to use the flipped classroom model. Maybe a little game or something like that, but I don't know about all lessons being flipped. Actually, Bergman and Sams, the creator of the flipped learning model, they recommend middle school and high school to properly deploy this. So excellent point, great question. Thank you.
According to Michelle, Lynn, Bergman, and others, a flipped classroom environment provides a humanizing way for students to learn material. Students don't have to be constrained by a 40-minute classroom and time to ask questions. They can go home, they can pause the video, they can relearn it, they can go to specific parts of the lesson, and it just allows for a more engaging and realistic way of learning the material. Some myths and misconceptions about a flipped classroom is that's really not all about the videos. It's about providing engaging activities for students to learn. Students that don't have internet access, you can download videos for them and they can take home to learn on their computer. More and more people in inner cities and in poor areas are having access to the internet also. Every lesson doesn't have to be flipped. It could be individual lessons, it could be units, it could be 1 or 2 lessons a week. So teachers can find their own way to, again, put this into the classroom environment. It's not the answer. It's just a way to help teachers. It's just another way to help the class be more engaging. Benefits include independent learning. It offers a differentiated learning environment for students, and it reduces the gaps.
Hello, gentlemen. I really appreciated your presentation. I have a question about differentiation. I understand flipping is doing the lecture at home and the homework in class. How does that provide for differentiation? If the instructor is providing the same materials to all students, is it differentiated? Or are you addressing the fact that because of this flipping technique, the instructor would have the opportunity to produce multiple versions of the lecture to address different learning needs of the students and thereby provide the differentiation? If that's the case, then how would this impact faculty workload?
Hello, Matt and Jim. This is Sony. I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. In fact, it was magnificent. The level of detail allowed me to understand the essence of the flipped classroom. I would say that the most compelling aspect of a flipped classroom is the flexibility that it provides for students. Students can learn on their own pace, when they can, when they have time. It also allows students to work independently. I do agree with Michael and Elena when they were asking what would happen if there's a lack of motivation. Yet, on the flip side, a flipped classroom forces a student to make decisions on their own. There has to be a level of maturity to ensure that the flipped classroom works effectively. I could imagine that if a student is not motivated, that this type of learning would not be successful. Again, I thoroughly enjoyed the slides where you explained exactly how you went about to creating your presentation. I've learned about new tools that I didn't even know existed. It was extremely informative. Similar to Jennifer S.'s question, how would a flipped classroom work for younger students, like students in elementary school or even in pre-K? Do you think that it would be a successful form of learning at such a young age? I would say that as a child, I would have loved to experience this form of learning. I'm more than sure that this type of learning will not only allow students to be more independent, but it will also prepare them for the real world. Again, this was an excellent job, and I've learned a lot about the flipped classroom. I would even say that that would be something that I would want to try with some of my colleagues and teach them how to utilize different fundraising databases, where I could show them one thing, and then at home I could also provide, of course at their own comfort, provide a little bit more training via YouTube or through Skype, so on and so forth. So thank you so much for this presentation. Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Two resources for further research in flipped classroom are the Flipped Learning Network, and if you type this link in here on the left, you can't click on it from VoiceThread, but if you type it in over here on your computer, you can go ahead and learn from a webinar from experts in the field, Bergman and Daniels. Here on the right, this is a nice short minute video. It's a 2-minute video and shows you how to use Camtasia, and teacher Aaron Sams, who's been using it to change the way he teaches in the class.
I really like the way that you've provided us links for further reading, and I really like the way that you have suggested to us the most important tools that we need to know about if we want to understand flipped classrooms and how to best implement them. That's very, very useful. It makes it seem more attainable and like something that we can actually do ourselves, and also kind of know who the major players are when it comes to flipped learning and flipped classrooms. I also really like the way that you have experts and in their own words speaking about some very, very important aspects of flipped learning. So that's really nice. Thank you.
Similar to Linda, I too enjoy the resources. I was taken back by the remarks and how different professionals use this form of learning. As I mentioned before, I am definitely going to utilize this form of learning and try to teach colleagues that I work with on a day-to-day basis how to utilize different databases and softwares. I mean, this is by far one of the most effective way of teaching, in my opinion, and I'm extremely, extremely glad that I was able to learn more and that I can actually apply this tool on a daily basis. So thank you guys again, great job.
Ricardo Morales, founder of academyavance.org, a charter school in inner city Los Angeles. I'd like to introduce him to you. He will actually, I will just actually read something that he wrote and sent to us. And it's about him starting the flipped classroom environment in his charter school. They've signed a contract with a group called flipswitch.com. Ricardo is a firm believer that the technology should not be a distraction to learning, as is unfortunately the case in many recent rollouts. The flipped classroom model is about the student's work, not the platform. The strategy does not try to extend the classroom, but rather to extend the learning. The student's work becomes the bridge between the teacher and the parents. So now the adults at school and at home can support the kids' exploration of the subject matter, but the kids are in the driver's seat. So this is just another example of another individual that sees merit using the flipped classroom model, and we'll let you know how it goes after he tries it out in the next few months. Yelena brought up an interesting question on the previous slide. How are students within maybe low-income areas or areas where they might not have a lot of technology use a flipped classroom model? And I'd be curious to hear from Ricardo Morales how his school actually did this. It's an inner city Los Angeles school district, and most of the students that I go to his school, I believe, are below the poverty line. So they are using a flipped classroom model. They're going to be implementing it, and I'll check back with him in a month or so and add another post to it. But thanks again. As you've heard from the previous speakers, the flipped classroom approach has become widespread. In New Jersey, with funding from the New Jersey Department of Education, Rutgers University is testing a flipped classroom approach in a comparative effectiveness study. Dr. Pamela Rothwell-Puglia, the lead on the study, will tell you more about this.
Hello. My name is Pamela Rothplatz-Puglia, and I'm an associate professor within the Department of Nutritional Sciences at Rutgers University. Rutgers has a health science career preparatory program for New Jersey high school students. And within the context of this program, we're going to compare student outcomes for the same course content taught with the flipped and the traditional approach. And this educational overview of the flipped classroom is very timely. Matt and Jim have done a great job on this, and it will be helpful for sharing with the New Jersey Department of Education and with the participating high schools. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have Shelly Terrell. She's an international educator and author and co-founded EdChat, and she's going to speak now about the flipped classroom model and reflect on her experiences.
Hello, thank you for having me. When I first started flipping my classroom, there's a couple of things. At first, I didn't realize that I was flipping the classroom. I, at the time, needed a way for my language learners who I worked with in Germany, and even the ones that I worked with in Texas and in Greece, to practice their English at home, because with language, you need to practice it in different contexts. And what I did was I started with the wiki, and I would put activities, things that I thought that would be motivating for them. And that is the most important word, I think, within this, is motivating. You don't have to just flip videos. I did flip videos with all learners when I was working with 4-year-olds all the way to 80 years old. But I also blended in other different types of technologies. One of them was Voki. So my students would see a Voki in the wiki. There was 2 of them, and they would have a conversation about what was going to be the next topic. And this conversation, you could only have it one way between the Vokis. And the Vokis are speaking avatars. They're 3D. And when they touch the different characters, then the characters, Shelly and Steve, would say something like maybe an idiom, or maybe introduce, for example, we talked about Super Bowl once, so they had one on the Super Bowl and they were wearing jerseys. Ooh, who do you think's gonna win? And that kind of a conversation. And then after that, they were led to the page where they could choose a variety of activities. And I think choice is very important, because one of the problems with the flipped classroom is how you're going to diversify instruction. Our learners do not all learn the same, so they cannot have the same type of homework. They can't have also a video or even the same video. They need to have different options. And so there are games, there are quizzes, there are some of my learners did want to do the quizzes. They did want to drill. Some had videos. And then when we came back in the classroom, we shared what we learned. Now, the other tricky part of this is that you need learners to be able to have input. They need to have that feedback when they come back. They do need to review what was flipped. They need to have a general understanding of the concept, and that's the idea. How do you introduce the concept? How do you make it motivating? And how do you give them options? I found that flipping was something that I needed to do sometimes, and then at other times I needed to ask the learners. Another thing I've recently found out about flipping, since I've seen it in the flesh, and since students and teachers who are working with flipping have also come to certain realizations, because when you begin flipping, that's one of the things that happens with any methodology, that you end up, you find what worked, what doesn't, and you find what are the nuances and how you can adapt it. And that's the important part. It is not so important that you're saying, I am flipping the classroom. What's the most important is you're saying, I'm motivating my learners, and this is how I motivate them. And this is how I have adapted it, because in the end, that's what it's about. It's about the learners. And so flips, those teachers that are flipping, the ones that you want to listen to the most, see what they're saying about their learners. What did their learners learn from it? How were they motivated? One of the things that I found out is I don't call it homework. I call it missions. I said, your mission when you come home is to find out about this, to find out about that. And these are the ways you can find out about that, whether it be animals, whether it be business, whether it be negotiating with your body, different things like that. This is how they're able to find out about it. And when you come to the classroom, we're going to see what is it that you learned and what can you contribute to the overall conversation, and what can we learn from each other? How can we learn about it more? How can we make sure that all of us have that general understanding? And how do we make sure that each and every student has that interest and can participate, because we don't want to leave anybody out. Another part of that is not all of our students have the same type of technology. So maybe you flip with activities that your students can do that are not even part of the online world and things like that. Maybe they can't play games and stuff. So that's something I would do too. I would suggest to parents, I would say, okay, let's play flip with games with animals. Let's do a game where this your child goes and your child is naming their stuffed animal and saying, I'm a superhero, I can do this. So there are different ways that you can get parents involved as well, and that really helped for me. My parents would reiterate chants, or maybe it was a song they needed to learn. They would go over scripts with the students, and that made flipping for me very, very successful. I didn't use it all the time, and I don't call myself a flip classroom teacher. And here's a few reasons why. Because I don't want to be stuck in people saying that's not how you flip, or that's not a full-time flip. What I want, and most important, like I said, is what it is that motivates my students. And if this is what motivates my students, this is what works for them, this is what gets them to want to learn the subject more and dive into it when we come back to class, then that's what I'm going to do. That's the kind of teacher I want to be. I want people to say, this is the teacher who motivates her students. So good luck with flipping. Take the ideas, take what you can, apply it, but make sure that your students are motivated.
Hello, Shelly. How are you? I just like to say, I enjoyed listening to your presentation and how you utilize flip classrooms to motivate your children to learn. My question is, how do you differentiate the different strategies to utilize that the students can use at home? Like you said, there may be some who may have computers. They may be some students who don't have it. Like you said, they can use the stuffed animals and create some sort of dialogue between the two. So in essence, I I would just like to know, how would you know exactly what to plan? Thank you.
I really like the information you've provided here about Shelly Terrell, and I really appreciate the opportunity to learn about her and about the other experts that you have mentioned here in your presentation. Definitely something I want to follow up on, so this is great. Um, I really like what Shelly Terrell is saying about missions versus homework, to help people find out about information, give them more of a sense of a mission rather than a chore. And I really like the way she talks about asking the learners how things are working, what they'd like to see from their learning experience. And of course, really like what she's saying about motivating your learners. It's not just flipping the classroom, it's about motivating your learners and adapting it for the many different types of learners. I also appreciate what she mentions about choice being important, and that we have a diversity of learners and interests as well. So I really found this to be useful, and I'm looking forward to following Shelly further.
It was refreshing to hear Shelly Terrell discuss her experience with flipped classrooms. A few things stood out to me and caught my attention. She mentioned having participation from the parents. I mean, this is crucial in a child's development. You want to have parents be involved in what their child is learning. So that was a great idea, having them also partake on some of the activities via flipped classrooms. The second thing that she mentioned that I also found great was the fact that she ensured that she had some kind of mechanism where students were able to provide feedback on what strategies worked, what didn't work. And this is something that definitely will better the learning experience for any students. I mean, that is the essence of education, ensuring that we provide innovative ways of teaching both students and also adults. So great resource, and I'm definitely going to start following her so that I could apply some of her techniques during my professional development trainings for the colleagues that I work with, again, regarding use of certain tools and softwares and databases at my office. All right, great, thanks.
Please type this link in directly to see the many flipped classroom references that we use for this presentation at tinyurl.com/NJCU flip refs. Thanks again for viewing our presentation. And please add your comments and questions on any slide and we'll respond. I'm happy to report that our voice thread that we made together, Matt and I, is going to be shared with the New Jersey Department of Education and high schools in the Flipped Classroom Comparative Analysis project. In addition, Ricardo Mireles has also found our voice thread and our project very useful, and has been a factor in helping him choose to use the Flipped Classroom model in his charter school.
I just want to say that I really, really enjoyed your presentation. I really enjoyed going through all the slides, and I like that you could zoom in on the slides. I like that you could hear people's comments. That was really valuable to hear October's comments and Mike's comments. And I really was a little skeptical at first, I guess. I was a little nervous perhaps about adding my voice comments, but now I really, really like it. I really think it's very, very useful, and I hope that I can learn more about this. I might even have some questions for you if that's okay, because um, you've been through it, and I would love to look a little bit more into this because I really, really like the way this was presented. It was very user-friendly. It was extremely logical, and it didn't seem to confuse. So I really like that. So thank you so much for a great job, and I look forward to following up and hearing everybody else's comments too. Thank you so much.
Linda, thank you for the invaluable comments that you gave, and really the true idea of a voice thread is to have the conversation continue and to have it be something that is not stagnant. So this is a little bit of a different medium than something like Blackboard, which is more linear. This, I believe, evokes a different type of train of thought from individuals, and it's nice to hear what people are thinking and communicating. So thanks again, and we do appreciate your comments. VoiceThread is a program, and they also have educational licenses, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Our school has a license, and I know some universities that also have licenses.
Thank you guys. This was very informative. I appreciate all the resources, and I'm hoping that this is something that I will be able to use in my classroom. Thanks again.
All right, guys, this is Mike again. I just was looking through the Blackboard posts here, and I'd like to kind of respond to a couple things that Martin pointed out. Martin asked a couple of really good questions here. His first one, how does flipping the classroom impact the dynamic of students not doing their homework, whatever it may be, leaving faculty to deliver facts during class time? And that's still an unresolved question that I would have as well. Because if the kids don't do their part at home, then we're sort of back where we started again. And I don't know if there's ever a solution for kids not doing homework. I know Shelly talked about in her slide the fact that this can be motivating, but like any technique, it has to be, I think, used in with the classroom in a way that fits your students and fits your style. Martin's second question, if students do watch the lecture, can I eliminate the textbook readings, or should we assume that students will do both since outside of class time is unlimited when compared to in-class time? That's it seems like we could make that assumption, right? That because outside of class time, there's so much more time available outside of class than in class, it seems feasible. But I know with my high school kids, particularly in the school that I teach at, they have just about as much time at home or less than they do in the classroom. So I think as teachers, we have to be cognizant of our students just like we would with any other assignment. And I think that reading still complements the flipped classroom model. That, again, it's not all or none. It's not so black and white. Flipped classroom is just another technique along with assigning reading that go together to form the course that you're teaching. And in question 3, if we're simply exchanging recorded lectures for textbooks, how is the flipped classroom anything new? I think that I think the flipped classroom, if you can add interactivity to your videos, gives another dimension to what you're able to do at home. So I don't think it's anything new in the sense that students are still trying to do work at home to help them learn. I think what's new is the way that they're able to do it. And sort of like Shelly implied in her slide, find what works for you and make it your own. This isn't an all or nothing game. So if there's a certain question that kids keep asking from a traditional homework assignment, maybe you can do like a Khan Academy video to explain that one question. If you're going to have a discussion or a debate in class, maybe you can use the flipped classroom model to sort of introduce the debate, to give the background context that you would ordinarily have given in class. Maybe you can use the flipped classroom as a quick test study guide where you just do a minute or two about one topic, a minute or two about another, kind of frame the context before a test or quiz. I don't think that it's limited to any one thing. I think just like any other technique, it fits in with the overall structure of somebody's class. By the way, guys, this was a great presentation. Thanks a lot. I learned a lot.
One last thought about how this is really effective for commenting. I just thought about the last comment I left on the previous slide, and I thought, you know, it's almost gamified in a way when you think about it, because maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but it sort of seems as if, you know, it's somewhat rewarding seeing your little icon or photograph appear next to a slide. It seems like you've had some kind of meaningful interaction with the presentation, and that you've, you know, provided your feedback or your thoughts or questions. And because it is so easy to use, it's very well presented. So I think maybe in a way this is a really nice format. It does what maybe a long thread of text in, let's say, Blackboard can't do, in the sense that, you know, it's a lot of text, it's very text heavy, right? So seeing icons and being able to more visually see a photo or an icon and know exactly what that means, that this person has made a comment, and also just the process of making the comment and then being kind of done with that comment, it's kind of encapsulated in that one comment. So it's really kind of start and finish, an easy way to go about this. I'm just sharing you my thoughts about that. I don't know if that's off base or if that's perhaps useful for your feedback that you're gathering. But I really enjoyed this, and if you have any questions about what I just commented on, please just let me know. All right, thanks guys.
Chris, thanks for the question. I believe there's much more and more research being done on flipped classrooms as we speak. In a recent article by Kathleen Fulton in Phi Delta Kappan, she wrote about 10 reasons to flip, and this case study was done in a southern Minnesota school that didn't have a lot of money, but they found that by flipping the classroom, it actually improved the achievement scores in math. And two of the more significant findings of the flipped classroom, as we alluded to earlier, is that, you know, it really gives students the time to access the material at any point, and also, more importantly, I think, allows them to work at their own pace. But again, thanks for asking. Great question, and thanks for your feedback. Okay, I'd like to first address Mike's comments. Very informative and very thoughtful. I took the liberty of writing them down, so if my head looks down, it's because I'm looking at the 3 different questions. Now, he read Martin's post, which I also read on Blackboard. Choose to answer it in here, since we're, again, trying to evoke the use of new technology. Also, I think the voice is a very powerful tool. Sometimes you don't really capture what you can capture on voice and through a linear format, such as such as Blackboard. So the first question that Mike brought up, which was Martin's question, was what is the impact of not doing homework? And again, not doing homework, they're not going to, if they're not doing homework in a lot of activities, I think they're going to suffer. If they don't read a chapter and they're on chapter 2 in the discussion, they're going to be falling way behind. So I don't really see this as anything different. I just see it as another tool to help students learn. The second thing is, can you eliminate textbooks? And absolutely not. This should complement textbooks. And I do hear Mike when, physics students and high school seniors, and my daughter's in high school now, and she's working really late and long hours. Students don't have unlimited time. But there's where such a flipped classroom model can actually help. So rather than me trying to look up how to do physics as her father and us searching through the textbook, why not pop on an example of a similar question that a physics teacher just made or a geometry teacher just made and transfer it to the actual homework? And that is really, I think, the key to learning, if you can be able to transfer it. And why not be able to go right to a short learning segment, pop that question in, and then answer the questions? That's where I actually see the advantage, a huge advantage of flipped classroom, and actually reduce the amount of time. The other thing is the interactivity, and I would agree with you, it'd be great to get more interactivity involved. All the different programs have different levels of it. If you sign up for Khan Academy now and not just watch one of his videos on YouTube, there are millions of dollars being poured into engineers actually writing lessons so that students could actually do them on the computer or on a tablet. And then if they get stuck with a question, then they go to Khan Academy. Camtasia has a good feature as far as putting questions in, but again, that gets a little bit more technologically advanced. So again, thank you for those questions. They were excellent. Hi, Linda. Thanks again for your thoughtful comments, and I do think you're right. Having your badge show up does help in wanting the person to listen to your comments and actually making the person want to actually put a comment on. It's very interesting to hear about on your earlier slides how your university is actually using the flipped classroom model and how teachers are using it and trying to help freshman college students. I can see that being very advantageous, especially if, let's say, if you forgot how to do research or something and you wanted to go back and always have that video lecture to look at. And as you can see, I guess I'm gamified on this slide since I've used 3 different identities to put on my recordings. I did that also so that it'd be easier for people to click around on the pictures to hear recordings. But thanks again, and have a good night.